I watched the Vin Diesel movie yesterday. I'm not saying I'm super proud of it, but it's the truth. I did. And it made me realize something really important about actors, especially male actors. So my question for you is, who are some of your favorite male actors? Now, I looked up who the most popular ones are. Tom Hanks is one, Anthony Hopkins, Al Pacino, Jack Nicholson, Sylvester Stallone, Clint Eastwood, and Christopher Walken are some of the most famous. And I didn't put Vin Diesel on this list as great actors, but they all do have something in common. They've all got really interesting voices. If you look at Sylvester Stallone, his voice is just an interesting voice. If you look at people like Christopher Walken and Jack Nicholson, man, they portray the crazy in their voices or just the unusual cadence in the way that they do their voices really makes them stand out. Tom Hanks, Anthony Hopkins, and Al Pacino just have such great control over the voices, the way they change everything about it depending on what's needed. It's incredible. And what I found is with female actors, sometimes they have good voices, sometimes not. Sometimes they're just average. But the really popular male actors almost always have really good voices. One of the most famous voices of any character in history, you never even saw his face till the end, was Darth Vader. You can't see any emotion from his face, but his voice is so memorable. And sure, they did a little bit to modify it, but behind that mask is the voice of James Earl Jones. And if you ever watch any movies with him, it doesn't matter. They did not need to modify anything. His voice is incredible. And it got me thinking, what is in a voice? What makes their voices so good? What can I do to have a more compelling voice? So, there are 5 basic things that go into how your voice gets used. Those are your pitch, your pace, pauses, tone, and inflection. The pitch is kind of how low or how high your voice is, which also corresponds to where it generates. If you speak from your diaphragm, your voice is going to tend to be lower. Generally, it's more commanding and it gets more believability, more respect. There are some people who really talk from their nasal cavity. They use their nasal voice, and that's a totally different thing. Most people are more in the middle, pharyngeal. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a good word. And when you have a higher pitch, it's going to get more attention. So if you're in a crowded room and you need to get people's attention, a higher pitch may be the way to go. If you want to be more commanding of respect, then speaking from the diaphragm may be the way to go. So pay attention to how it is that you are speaking, where the air is really coming from, high or low. It'll correspond with your pitch. How about pace? I tend to be more like that hare. I tend to speak a little bit slower. People who speak slowly are down in the 110 words per minute range. People who talk very fast get up to 170 words per minute. Both have their place, and if you speak slowly, sometimes it shows a measured effect, and it gets people to know that you really thought it through. When you speak really quickly, sometimes it's hard to understand, but sometimes it just shows the excitement. So think about your pace and think about how you compare to other people. Are you more like the tortoise or more like the hare? Pauses. Pauses are incredibly powerful when you're trying to make a point. You can pause before the important word or after the important word. If you pause right before the important word, people stop and really pay attention to what that word's going to be. So you've really pulled their attention in because you paused before a word that you want them to listen to. If you want them to remember the last thing, then you pause after. So you make a declarative statement. And then you move on to your next point. And when you do that, it gets people keeping that last thought in their head. And it really re-emphasizes it. So think about your pauses. Listen to how other people pause Think about how you pause. Are you using them to emphasize your points? Tone. Good way to think about tone is the emotion involved. Do you have a happy, excited tone? Do you have a scared tone? Are you angry? Are you just monotone? If your tone and your words do not match, you lose all credibility. It happens to me because I tend to speak in a monotone, and bad for me. The more emotionally charged a topic is, the more I tend to go monotone. And it makes people not believe me. It doesn't matter how important I say a thing is, or how much it affects me, or how much I'm hurt or scared or whatever. If my tone is just kind of flat, it's not believable. And so you have to make your tone match what your words are if you want credibility. Inflection. A change in inflection can completely change the meaning of a sentence. If you're online and you're looking at this, then you can see I have up on the screen, I never said you stole my money. It's only 7 words, but that sentence can have 7 different meanings. If you say, I never said you stole my money, it means somebody said it. It just wasn't me. If you say, I never said you stole my money, it's that it wasn't you, it was somebody else. If you say, I never said you stole my money, then it means you stole something from me, but it wasn't my money. So you can see from those examples, just changing the inflection in which word you stress completely changes the meaning of the sentence. So what can you do about all this? My recommendation is that you record yourself. And I know you're going to hate the way your voice sounds. Everybody does, at least at first. The more you record yourself and listen, the more you get used to it and you realize, oh, my voice isn't as terrible as it seemed the first few times I listened. An easy way to get this done is the next time you're on a Zoom meeting, ask people if you can record it. And then the hard work comes in. Then you actually need to listen to yourself. Sometimes you need to brace yourself. So after it's recorded, I recommend not even looking at the screen so that you're not distracted by the visuals and just listen to your voice. Think about your pitch. Is it high, low? Is it changing? Think about your pace. Think about the pauses that you use. Could you use more of them, or are they distracting? Think about your tone and think about your inflection. So I want you to go back and think about some of your favorite actors and watch a couple of scenes with them. See how well they use their voices. Then record yourself, see how well you use your voice, and see, are there things that you can make changes to in order to be able to better make your point, be more commanding, just be more effective in the way you communicate. All right, this was episode 32. Thank you so much for being with us today. I hope that's helpful, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening to another episode of How to Talk to Weirdos. Hopefully you found it both interesting and useful. If either of those things is true, please share. Do you have a friend or a coworker who could benefit from listening? Maybe a family member you're going to be spending the holidays with? Please send them a link to your favorite episode and see if your conversations don't get just a little bit easier. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much and have a great week.